Good afternoon, 𝗦𝘁࿍𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗶. How are you?
Hey, Anton. Morning. I'm actually in New York this morning, so
I'm sorry, man.
That's okay. It's 7 o'clock here for us.
Oh, dear. Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, hope you're well. Guys should be joining us soon, but we can go live and then take it from there. You ready to go?
Sure. Let's do it.
Good, man. Let's do this. Rightio. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 119th Q&A session on fundraising. We've been doing these for over 3 years, where we've had over 260,000 people join us. And we've now moved from Clubhouse to LinkedIn. And I guess we need all the help we can get to share and spread the news. Guy, you would need to raise your hand in order to come up. And the idea is that we're now doing this to help startups, basically, with whatever questions you may have when it comes to fundraising for your business. Whether you want to know when's the right time to fundraise, how much you should ask for, who should you go after? Is it an angel, a corporate VC, a venture capital firm, a grant agency, or should you just go to a bank or your mum and dad and rich uncles and aunties? Whatever that may be, really, this is the place to ask. And we'll be discussing things, and open to discuss rather, things such as how do you get your pitch deck done, or talk about valuations so you can get an understanding of how that works, or maybe how to prepare for due diligence and how to prep your data room and all that jazz. We're going to be here for the next 59 minutes now with two brilliant experts in investment and fundraising. And by the way, if you're tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'll need to join us here on LinkedIn Live Audio. And the idea is that you can do that via two avenues. Either go straight onto LinkedIn and search for Startup to Scale Up Club. It's our last post. It's on today's session. Or you can go to our website, startup-to-scale-up.club, and look out for Startup Fundraising Q&A 119 and just click join there and you'll get straight onto our call today. We're going to do some quick introductions and then we'll open it for questions from the audience. Again, we'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind sharing this with your network. On the other hand, if your questions today are not on fundraising, please save them for the other rooms we do. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. And on Thursdays, it's fundraising. And as you can see, they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP to any future sessions between now and the 19th of December on our website, startup-to-scale-up.club. Now, some quick intros and then open for questions. My name's Anton 𝗏𝗂𝗏. I'm an Albanian in London, helping startups with talent as a talent partner. I also do some growth advisory work. And lately, I've been helping a few angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. And we'll start with Mr. 𝗏𝗏 and then go on to Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Fabio.
Hi, everyone. Fabio here. I'm the founder of Blue Verse Ventures. We are an emerging manager investing early stage in deep tech, Web3. We look at deals in the UK, in Europe, and the US, and also UAE. What else? I also work with the European Commission for their European Innovation Council, and I also work with the World Economic Forum for their technology convergence group.
Thank you very much, Fabio.
Hi, Guy Pengelly. I'm a co-founder of Varesco Group, which is a company which invests and provides consulting advice in all areas of food and agriculture and food production. We employ more of a PE strategy rather than a venture strategy, but work with some early stage companies at the moment to help them with commercialization, fundraising, and interim management. Before I founded Varesco, I was portfolio manager for a UK VC fund called the British Innovation Fund, which invested into UK university spinouts. And my background is as a chartered accountant and previously investment banking as well.
That is brilliant. Thank you very much to both of you. I really appreciate your time today. So I guess a quick reset of the room then for those of you that have just joined us here on LinkedIn, but also those of you that I can see have tuned into Facebook and some on YouTube. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 119th session. We're doing this to help you with whatever questions you may have in terms of fundraising in order to get your company or business to the next stage. And those questions could be on anything to do with fundraising, whether you're not sure which you should go to, who should you go to in terms of the source of raise, whether it's an angel or a grant agency or a bank or a VC or a corporate VC, or perhaps you want to know how to get your pitch deck done, or maybe you want to talk about equity and all that jazz. Really, all you have to do is raise your hand, we'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. There are no right or wrong questions for that matter, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. If, however, your questions today are not on fundraising, please save them for the other events we run. Mondays it's talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays is growth, and Thursdays, as you can see today, it's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. and you can RSVP to any future session if you go onto our site, StartUp2ScaleUp.𝗏. And we've got them launched and scheduled between now and the 19th of December. Also, if you're tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. So you'll need to either go onto our site and look out for Startup Fundraising Q&A 119, or just come onto LinkedIn and search for StartUp2ScaleUp_�𝗏. And there you'll find our last post on today's session. Andrew, thank you for coming up. Would you mind if I quickly get from Guy and Fabio their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early fundraising, and then I come to you? Is that all right? Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry, Anton. Are you speaking to Fabio or Guy?
No, I was asking you, would you mind waiting whilst I ask them
of course,
what their
yes.
do's and don'ts are, and then I'll come to you with your question, if that's all right, buddy. Right, Fabio, since you're joining us from New York, I guess you get dibs. Take it away, please. What are your biggest do's and don'ts in terms of early stage fundraising?
Sure. I think the biggest do's would be you have to tell a compelling story. You have to really explain in plain English what you're trying to do, what problem you're addressing, what is the actual solution. I've seen decks, even yesterday, where it was an 18-pager, and after 18 pages, I couldn't actually tell what the founders were trying to do. So it's not a good thing. You really have to spell it out and really highlight with statistics and market data, where the problem is, or what is where the opportunity is. You need to start engaging conversations, I would say, early on in the process, before you actually need money. You're in a better position. So ask for meetings and say, look, we've spotted this, do a bit of education, a bit of pedagogy, even with the potential investor. If he knows the market already, most probably he will probably know some of the problems you're trying to address. And then build a bit of traction, whether it's partnerships or products, and then go back to the investor, whether it's an angel or VC, and say, look, we told you we would be doing this, we've done it, and meanwhile you build a relationship. Have a clear ask in terms of the money you want to raise, and break down this that source of funding into different ways you're going to spend it. And have your marketing materials ready, your digital presence ready, all of that. That's quite important. And I think the biggest don'ts, don't waste too much time speaking to investors who are not investing in the space or who are not actively deploying. And the only way to know that is to have conversations or follow them on social media or LinkedIn. there's no point having, speaking to 50 investors if, 15 of them or 20 of them are not investing in the space. And I would say, don't overpromise and underdeliver. Do the actual opposite, and don't come up with big metrics for market data. In fact, the smaller and the more relevant the niche you're trying to address, the better. I think this will be the biggest do's and don'ts for me.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Guy.
Yeah, I think on the biggest do's, it's when you kind of reach that stage where you're going after institutional or more professional investment. Maybe you bootstrapped your way to building to a business that needs to start scaling and needs that kind of higher ticket size. Just make sure that you are prepared, that you have everything in place to ensure you can be as efficient for potential investors as possible. So, having a data room in place, having a solid business plan, pitch deck ready to go, and a clear kind of that pitch deck sort of saying what the problem is, solution, route to market, market size, competitors, team, and use of proceeds. I think, showing that you're organized, that you've got a well thought out plan is incredibly important for investors, and will also help them with those discussions that they have at IC level. And then on the don't side, kind of simple, but kind of important, don't give up. That it's an incredibly tough funding environment out there at the moment. You have to speak to a lot of potential investors, get your name out there, kind of, and what will happen is you may speak to someone, but they may not be the right investor for you, but or you may not be the right company for them, but they may know someone who they can introduce you to. So it's kind of, you need to speak to as many people as possible, whether that's across angel networks, investor networks, institutions, and it's like a job interview. Every pitch you do, every conversation you have, there's only a finite number of questions that people can ask you about your company, about your business plan, about the market. And the more conversations you have, the more refined your pitch will be. And at some point you're gonna come across the person who wants to invest in you, and you'll be well prepared. So just keep at it, basically.
Well, thank you very much, Guy. That is some brilliant stuff. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us again. Please introduce yourself and fire away with whatever fundraising question you have for us today.
Hi, thanks, Anton. Thank you, Fabio and Guy. My name is Andrew. I founded a company called Evident IME a year ago, and we're just about ready. Well, at first I thought I was ready to reach out to investors, but I wasn't. My pitch deck and everything, materials and business plan is still being worked on. Got a really great fractional CPO and CTO on board who are really, really valuable and helping with that. So my question is, now that I'm really just about to start getting into reaching out to investors, I've validated. I guess the question is the difference from an investor perspective on what is validation, what is traction, and what would your perspective be on, the solution I'm working on is very difficult to get a letter of intent from, because I'm pre-seed, pre-MVP, and I've actually got feedback from potential clients saying that this is fantastic, it's genuinely transformative, it's a great idea, but we just can't sign an LOI or a non-binding LOI or a binding LOI until there's actually a product on the table which we can look at. So there is validation, and I guess what's the definition of traction if I've got potential clients who actually really like the solution, but it's just impossible for them to give any more in terms of future buying signals?
Normally I try and give my quick 2 pence before the experts have gone, but this time, I can't remember which one of you unmuted first, but let's start with Guy, and then we'll go to Fabio. Thank you, Andrew.
Are you able, Andrew, just to give a bit more detail on the product and the business, on what you're trying to solve?
Sure. Absolutely. So for the last 16 years, I've been working in medical education, real-world evidence, data analytics, artificial intelligence studies of electronic health records. And I essentially found a way to optimize medical education for HCP behavioral analytics, which is the #1 priority for pharma. So there was a 2024 study, 57% of pharma want to understand as a top priority how healthcare professionals make clinical decisions. So I've actually invented a new metric called consensus analytics, which is sort of a hybrid medical education, hybrid real-world evidence solution. And it's very, very different, but it's solving a number of different problems. It's also got a direct to HCP funding mechanism, which has never been done before, because essentially it's non-compliant, which is one of the major barriers to actually delivering this. It's a SaaS platform, essentially, but it's a data analytics platform that provides medical education directly to healthcare professionals, and they vote on the topics meritocratically.
Okay, and have you raised any money thus far?
No, it's pre-seed. I'm bootstrapping, but I kind of pivoted away from speaking to clients, because one of the first people I spoke to was the global head of medical affairs at 𝗦𝗏, and she said, look, you can pre-sell this. And it wasn't until about 2 months ago I started reaching out to investors, and that's when I realized I just wasn't investor ready. And now I've just built I've got a really great team of advisors, former presidents of major American medical associations, former vice president of Shire, former global medical affairs leader from Takeda, former director of communications at Novartis and Merck. So very senior people, great advisors, great feedback. So that would be, I assume, would be validation. The product's been validated as well, and there's another definition I'd like some clarity on is product market fit, because obviously there is no product at the moment, but I understand where it would fit into the market. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. It's
no, that's helpful. And what's your investor grouping that I'm assuming you're UK based? Are you looking at VCs? You're looking at angel networks? Are you a bit of both, or high net worth?
It would be I think angels really in the beginning, or if there's any sort of pre-seed and institutional investors groups that would be interested, then who've got
And how much are you looking to raise?
Well, this is the other problem. The MVP, if we have this API called FHIR, which is the Fast Health Interoperability Resources, how electronic health records communicate, the license for that £700,000 a year. So I want to build an MVP without that, and then build it in later, so you can have a proof of concept. So the MVP without FHIR, which is kind of central to it, it's a larger pre-seed investment than average that you'd be looking for. So anywhere between 500 to 1.5 million for the MVP, including the FHIR API. Okay.
Well, I think the stage that you're at now is you're kind of pre-product, right? As you said. So it's more, do you have a concept that people want to back, and then do they want to back you as an individual? That's kind of the investors that will be putting money in at this stage is basically all about you. So you've got a clearly identified problem, you've got a solution for it. They'll be looking at things like how defensible is your solution, which it seems it's fairly defensible, but it's kind of making that very clear, talking about the size of the market that you're going after, the need for the kind of medical education within healthcare professionals, and ultimately who your paying customers will be. And then essentially bringing that all together and saying, I'm the person who's going to be able to deliver that based on my track record of 16 years in medical education, and the kind of initial validation that we've been doing thus far. I think what's great about the UK funding environment is, and I don't know any off the top of my head, but I'd research angel networks or more accelerators that can kind of give you that industry expertise and make the connections to possible investors. But I would have thought you'd be looking at some sort of SEIS type incentive for investors to come in, and therefore those kind of angel and high net worth networks will be the places to go to for that kind of funding, because they'll get a really nice tax incentive from doing that. And there'll be, again, I don't know if any off the top of my head within this sector, but there'll be SEIS funds as well that you can start approaching. But that's kind of, as you say, it's difficult because you haven't got the product. You're not near to revenue at the moment. So it's basically about selling the vision of what you're trying to do and why you, Andrew, are the person who can do that, and you've got defensibility within that as well.
Thank you very much, Guy. Fabio, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, hi Andrew, and sure. So in terms of validation or traction, validation is there to demonstrate you can reduce risks for the potential investors. What is it that you can demonstrate to them, that shows it's less risky than just an idea or a two-pager. So you put together, if I understand correctly, a board of advisors. I think that's a good endorsement, from people in the industry. Even though you're pre-product, I mean, can there be a customer, like some sort of customer interest? If you start issuing newsletter, and you got people to sign up, and then you start explaining the product or the vision you have, can you start building up a customers list or database of people potentially interested? Any sort of technical validation, so anything that you can prove to show that you can reduce the risk of investments at such an early stage would be beneficial. In terms of tractions, that demonstrates scalability. So once you have these early interest, from potential customers, you will need to demonstrate some metrics. But traction is potentially more the story for the next round. For this round, it's more, well, I believe this can work, and this is how I demonstrate. Also, if you're in AI and healthcare, I mean, I assume you will be operating within some sort of a regulatory framework. So have you engaged the regulators? Do you advise them? Is there any form of relationship there where you can demonstrate not only thought leadership, but actually starting to carve out a need in the market, and how you can actually fill that need and fill this need, and this is regulatory approved. You say you invest already. I mean, what does it mean? Are you now happy with the story of your deck, the arc of the deck? Do you know exactly what metrics you're going for, and so have your FAQ ready, basically. And then through the advisors in the industry, if I understand correctly, can you start, if not LOI, but demonstrate, or you can demonstrate their interest or advanced conversations. I think that's how we go about it.
Thank you very much, Fabio. And Andrew, I'm not sure, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I'll get to that in a second. So I'd just like to pick two things. One, from what Fabio just said in terms of showing traction. If you're not able to get LOIs, then you need to get some kind of interest. And if you're not, then there might be something underlying here, whether what you're working on isn't really much use to these people that you're speaking to, or perhaps you're not speaking to the right people, or perhaps the issue that you're solving or you want to solve is not as important to them. But most people, if you are speaking to the right person, number one, and number two, if you are solving the right thing and they're convinced that you've got things in order, they should, I'm not saying you'll talk to two people and both of them will say yes, but if you talk to 100 people, you should have at least 4 or 5 people who say, we would love to use this product if and when it's ready and it works. And if it's not, then I would go back and try and find out why. But what I would do is definitely, and now going back to what Guy said about accelerators and angels, I would look at that. And the thing that I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this to you before, is grants. So there are 2 types that you can definitely look at, and if I were in your position, I would. Number one, things like Innovate UK, but also the EU Horizon schemes and a few others, and that could come in handy with what you're trying to build, either the API or the product before that. If you could identify a European And then there's another one, an international, I can't remember now. Oh, God. Oh, there's an international grants agency that if you identify a partner somewhere in Europe, maybe, I don't know, a university who's willing to, they've got a tech class who's willing to build this for you or something along those lines, you could get millions in funding in grants. Definitely look at the accelerator route and definitely look at the angel investor route. I would strongly advise you to do that, but something tells me that you might need to do some more product and customer discovery in terms of going back. So you are, I think, in a good position to have the board that you said you have. Try and utilize these people to get you to talk to your potential customers, just to talk to them and tell them, I'm not selling anything. I just want to pick your brain in terms of what I'm working on. And I would really, really sit down and make a list of at least 100 people to reach out to. And hopefully out of those 100, you'll get to speak to 10, 20, and maybe one or two will actually eventually, after you've spoken with them, say, you know what, I'm happy to give you, if not a binding LOI, at least some kind of interest or a 5-second video, whatever it may be. But I really think it's time to perhaps go back to that drawing board in terms of customer and product discovery. I hope you found that helpful, Andrew.
No, very, very helpful. Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Guy. So I have spoken to potential clients. I've got follow-up meetings with the Chief Medical Officer at Roche, and I've got meetings tomorrow with the current GMA at 𝗬𝗁𝗂 𝗏, the Global Medical Affairs. And there is interest amongst people who are former VPs at pharma companies. And I've got a really good network of people I can reach out to. But as I said before, the problem is that because of compliance, they wouldn't be able to support this from an investment side, even though they do have these, you know, Merck have their venture fund, and a lot of different pharma companies do. It would be non-compliant for them to invest in something which is pre-MVP. But that's the sort of chicken and the egg catch-22 situation. So that's yeah.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. That is rude of me. I have come across cases though where they have invested or commissioned or whatever you want to call it, but invested, really, that's what it means, in pre-MVP. But this, mind you, though, it was done at university research level rather than a private company like yourself. So a team of researchers at a certain university came up with something. One of the pharmaceutical companies invested and commissioned, or whatever you want to call it, and then they actually ended up starting a company based on that. So maybe there's ways to kind of go around it. But again, I'm very well done, brilliant that you've got these meetings. Try and make use of them. Try and push them to the point where they're basically really telling you what is it that you've got and what is it that you need to have to get people like them on board. That's what you want. You really want to try and push them to the limit, if that makes sense, Andrew.
Yeah, and I actually, funny you should say that. I asked, so it's Dr. 𝗏𝗏𝗏, the Chief Medical Officer at Roche. I said, when we speak in December, can you consider what you would need, what I would need to give you for an LOI? So yeah, that's already been broached, that topic. So, but anyway, Anton, Fabio, Guy, really, I'm taking up too much of your time. Thank you so much for your help.
No, that is brilliant and very well done. And have you looked into this, the grant side of things and the accelerators at all?
Well, so yeah, luckily I've got the, do you remember Jagdeep Singh, who was on before?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, he worked on the London 2012 Olympics. He's put me in contact with 𝗦𝗁𝗏, and they sort of come together as a fractional CPO. I've got a meeting with them at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we're literally stripping apart my business plan and restructuring it. So that's
great. They're two of our regular panelists. So I'm glad they're helping you, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Best of luck, and please come and tell us how you're doing.
Will do.
Love to hear on your progress.
All the best. Thank you.
Cheerio. Bye bye. Okay, so we now have I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Is it 𝗏𝗏 or 𝗏𝗏 or how do you pronounce it, buddy?
Yeah, it's 𝗏𝗏, absolutely. Rightly pronounced, 𝗏𝗏.
𝗏𝗏,
So,
thank you very much, sir.
I
Please
am,
introduce yourself and fire away with whatever question you have on fundraising for us today.
yeah. So basically, I'm from India. So I am building a health tech platform, which is basically we are trying to bring various health data in a single platform, and we would like to run a AI algorithm on top of that, so that we can come out, result oriented, outcome driven approach, and which will help end user to take the decision what to do further, and so on and so forth. And
𝗏𝗏,
India
I'm sorry,
specifically,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I heard you because I think the line, I don't know what it is, but it's not the best of lines. So you've got a platform, and what is it that you're trying to do with that platform again, 𝗏𝗏?
So yeah, so what I'm trying to do basically, we are trying to bring various health data, like take a smartwatch data, like different diagnostics data, then
Okay,
different health data like
all right.
prescription and all of the data,
Okay,
bringing in a single platform, and running on top of all the data. We are trying to build a AI algorithm, and trying to build some outcome-driven approaches where people can get the right direction, what he's supposed to do, and that's how the whole approach is. And it's a B2B, B2B2C kind of a model which we are trying to build. And so it is currently in the stage mode, and we are trying to build a product around. So right now, the thing is like we are in the MVP stage, and I would like to know that whether you people are, you know, uh, investing in India as well, Indian startups as well or not.
so you would like to know whether investors, did you say in the UK or India, would be interested in this? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got this data. How are you collecting this data? Where are you getting this data from?
Yeah, so basically, if you take a smart watches, there are a lot of smart watches, IoT device, are there, am I right? So we are trying to pull the data from the APIs and then bringing in a single platform, so that you can start monitoring whether it is a family member or doctors or
I
health
see. So
coaches, or
people
that
will
is not.
have to give you or to let you kind of clock in an API of some sort to collect that data. Is that
Yeah,
right? Okay. And
yeah,
what do you
absolutely.
want to do with that data then? What is the aim? What are you trying
Yeah,
to do
we,
different to?
we so this yeah, definitely. So basically, this is one set of data which we are getting from the smartwatches and IoT devices. There are another set of data we are getting from the diagnostics, side, like blood test and other things. And there are different sort of data where prescription and many other things. Like if you see the human life cycle, there are multiple times we used to go to the doctor doing multiple tests and all. So we're trying to bring all the data in a single platform so that decision making would be very easier
Okay, so then
for
you
a
want to
longer
sell
approach.
that data to somebody else to make decisions. Okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
not only like that, like
yep.
you can also monitor the data, because there are continuous data which is coming from the smartwatches, and it kind of a predictive analytics kind of a thing where you can see what are the things can possible, what are the pros cons,
I hear
and
you.
how you
I
can
hear you.
go
I
ahead.
hear you. I hear you.
So
Personally,
that
yep, go on.
yeah. So
Go on, Debrad.
I believe you understood our thought process, and this data would be used for the doctors, relatives, and so on and so forth, and health coaches, and that's how we have planned it. So
I
I
hear
think
you. I
you
hear.
understood my question as well, am I right?
In terms of attracting investors, if you need investors, I would definitely advise you to focus on Indian investors. So investors that are in India, or investors elsewhere who have experience and are active in India. You don't want to go to an investor who knows nothing about your jurisdiction. And guess why? Because the absolute majority of them will not invest somewhere where they know nothing about that jurisdiction. So you're just going to waste your time going around in circles. But personally, actually, with this kind of business, I think you have a much better chance at selling that product to a larger company rather than running it as a startup. Personally, that would be my aim. I don't know if Fabio and Guy, if you want to add anything, Fabio?
No, that's good. I'm with you here.
Thank you, Guy.
Yeah, I was just going to make some general points around you're obviously capturing data from individuals using third-party devices. So I think you said, it was a bit difficult to hear, but I think you said something along the lines of using Apple or iWatches to capture data. So you've got to be careful about who actually owns that data. Do you need permission from the individuals to use their data? And you certainly need to use it anonymously. So could that open up a can of worms? I don't know the answer to this, but I'd be astounded if Apple hasn't put some disclaimer in somewhere to say that they own that data anonymously. That's how these guys, capture their or make their money. So then it's also how are you making revenue? So you're B2B2C, but you've got doctors paying. So can you, and I don't know how the Indian healthcare system works, forgive me, but can individual doctors in India pay for that kind of data and the insights that you have, or would you need to go to healthcare providers? Is there public and private healthcare providers, that kind of thing? Like who's paying for the data, and or is it an organization, or is it individual healthcare practices? Another thing to think about would be there's probably a significant regulatory pathway that you'd need to get through in terms of actually being able to launch the product, because if you're starting to make sort of insights into healthcare and provision of healthcare based on anonymized data that you're taking from people, there's probably a regulatory hurdle that needs to be overcome before you can start kind of selling that kind of insight and information through. So those were just some thoughts I had, but I'll be honest, my expertise of early stage funding within India is pretty limited, I'm afraid.
That's very sound advice, Guy. Thank you for that. And exactly what Guy said there, Raj. This sounds like the kind of operation you would need a ton of money, and not just money, but people with some certain power, if that makes sense. So, which is why I said personally, with something like this, I would rather go to a company, I don't know, a big pharmaceutical in India or whatever it may be, and say, look, this is what I have. I'm working on this. Try and get some kind of defense, i.e. some kind of IP or whatever it may be, and say, this is what I'm working on. Would you be interested in bringing this in-house? And then sit down and talk to them, whether they want you to be a separate company and they fund you, or whether they want to bring you in, or whatever it may be. But this to me strikes as something that you would need a lot of money and a big machinery behind you, my friends. Hope you found that helpful, Debraj.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and best of luck. Okie dokie. A quick reset of the conversation before we go on to 𝗦𝘁𝗿. I hope I've pronounced your name right, buddy. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 119th session. We've been doing these for over 3 years. We've had over 260,000 people join us. We then moved from Clubhouse to LinkedIn, and now we need all the help we can get to spread the news. So please do feel free to share this or tag people that you think may benefit from this. Today, we're helping founders with fundraising, and your questions can be on anything to do with fundraising, whether it's where to find the right funding sources. Is it a grant, a crowdfunding platform, an accelerator, a VC, an angel, a corporate VC? How do I do my pitch deck? What are valuations? How do I prepare for due diligence? And all that jazz. All you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with whatever questions you have. There are no right or wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. it's a learning curve for us all. If you're tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions now. Therefore, you would need to join us live here on LinkedIn Live Audio. You can do that either by going to our site, StartUp2ScaleUp.club, or by going onto LinkedIn and searching for Startup to Scale Up Club, and it's the last post there that you can click to join us here. Just a reminder, if your questions today are not on fundraising, please save them for the other Q&As, for the other events that we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. And they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP there via our... Okay, you can, move to listening. You can RSVP there via our website, StartUp2ScaleUp.club. Without further ado, please introduce yourself, 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝗀𝗶, and please tell me, because I'm sure I've mispronounced your name, so please forgive me.
No.
And then
okay.
Take it away.
Yeah. I'm glad that I met you, Anton. I do not know whether I'm pronouncing your name correctly or not. In the grant writing program, and it was really, great connect with you. So myself, 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝗀𝗶 𝗫 I'm working as a associate director for Cognizant Technology Solutions, and this year I have started my own venture, which is 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝗀, and I'm doing bootstrapping at this moment. It is actually addressing mental health for university students using AI and machine learning algorithm. Okay, the problem that we are trying to solve, that is stigma, because though the universities, they do have well-being center, they do have counselors, they do have the mental health ecosystem, it is not effective, and the mental health problems within students still prevails, and universities they do not have any clue what is going on students' mind, and that's where we come into the picture. Our proposition is to continuous monitoring of mental health and reporting. Okay, so we are in the early stage. And as of now, there are 5 members. Me as a founder, I have another 𝗦𝘁𝗿, who is a data scientist, and he has a lot of experience in AI, like more than a decade. He's my classmate. And I do have another advisor who is working as a marketing specialist and as well as an advisor. I do have one consultant psychiatrist at NHS as an advisor, and also I do have one clinical psychologist who is working from India. So currently we are now 5 members, and we are planning to onboard another advisor. We are on the verge of building prototype, with collaborating with students as a internship program, and we need funding, right? As of now, based on whatever the learning I have had, I have find out that as my company is UK registered company, I have to be SCIS eligible, because that will make life smoother. And I have to prepare business plan. Definitely the pitch deck has to be ready. I have to prepare a roadmap, and there has to be a financial plan, right? 3 years or 5 years, right? Apart from that, right, what my question is, like, if I have to apply for grant, or if I have to apply for for funding for early stage investors, what are the key things that I have to keep in mind on top of my list, and what are the channels that will open the doors for me? If you can advise, please. Yeah.
Pass you on to the investors first, and then if I think I need to add anything else, I will do. Guy, do you want to start first on this one, and then we'll go to Fabio?
Yeah. So so you're raising investment in the UK. Are you a UK company or are you an Indian company?
UK registered company.
Okay, fine. I was just now. I'll be honest. My knowledge of SCIS is a bit rusty, but you will need to be a UK company, so that's fine. So there'll be various different places to just check up on exactly the requirements for being an SCIS company. And actually, one of the friends of StartUp to ScaleUp Club, Anthony and Seed Legals, is a very good place to start for these kind of things because they'll have the criteria mapped out. So I definitely recommend looking at that.
It's quite simple. If especially if you are I'm sorry to interrupt, guys.
No, go.
If you are 2 years and less, then it's very simple. If you're older than 2 years, it gets a bit complicated, but it's not too complicated. Sorry, Guy, carry on.
No, that's helpful. Thanks, Anton. And I think it's a very good, we kind of touched on it with Andrew earlier, but it's a really good scheme for an early stage company because you're essentially, from an investment point of view, it's de-risked from the tax breaks you get. It's obviously not risk-free by any stretch of the imagination, but it does encourage that very early stage investment when you're more at sort of concept stage rather than, in the product development or scaling side of things. On the grant side, the sort of first port of call I'd say would be to get onto Innovate UK and search through what particular grants they may have for on the mental health side or healthcare. They're pretty science and technology intensive, so I would have thought, and they look at healthcare as well. So I would have thought that there will be something within there, and they'll have very, very kind of detailed criteria of what you need to be doing as a business to attract grant funding. And so you'll just need to follow the steps that are laid out there. What I would say is that a lot of the grant funding that comes through Innovate UK will be, you then have to allocate that grant towards a specific project. So you just need to be mindful of that. They get a bit grumpy if you kind of go off track and start allocating grants towards things that you've not put in your plan. So make sure that whatever you submit is kind of will be helpful for growing the business. And then I think it kind of sounds like you're in good shape in terms of, you preparing your pitch deck, getting get your data room sorted as well. So have all the key documents you need, and then like your business plan, pitch deck, incorporation documents, all those kind of things, any customer traction. And then I'd say that I had one other point and I've now forgotten it, which isn't that helpful.
Later on, maybe.
I'll come back to it, Anton. We'll let Fabio come in.
That's cool. Fabio?
Yeah, quickly, sorry for interrupt. You mentioned about one legal organization name who can help with SCIS.
Seed Legals. I can
Okay.
put that in the. I'll send that to you in a message right now, Lek.
Okay. That would be great. Yeah.
Carry on, Fab.
Yeah. Hi guys. So for SCIS, I think you can ask up to £250,000 under SCIS, and then you have to be under 3 years. So it sounds like you qualify. In terms of grants, yes, Innovate UK is a good call. There's knowledge transfer partnerships as well in the UK, and also for the European Investment Council, for the European Innovation Accelerator. For the European Commission, I mean, you can actually still apply for some grants. It's changed since Brexit, but the grant program can still be in place. The equity program is not available for UK companies anymore, but that's something you can apply to. Also, when you ask for grants, it's different. I mean, some of the information that you put in the deck will be relevant, but you need to really expand in each question for grants. It's a lot of literature. So if I was you, even before starting, I mean, you check the different timetables and when the grants are available. But I would start finding online or trying to get some information on how to actually write a grant application. It is quite an extensive process and a lot of literature. So get your text. Get your text ready and try to find application questions, and then already put together a a pack with all these answers, just to get a head start. Because sometimes when you apply to a grant, you have a 2 weeks deadline or a month deadline, and you want to preempt that. You want to be prepared before that. That would be my 2 cents.
Perfect. Thank you very much to both of you. And 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘀, I'll give you my quick 2 pence. Number one, I definitely think you should look into accelerators, and especially university labs / accelerators, because you're already working in that field and there's some really good ones. Probably one of the best at the moment, it's Set Square Partnership. I would look at them. So look at accelerators. Number two, in terms of what else you need to have, obviously, you would be in your best position if you have at least a product ready. You haven't got that now, and things are going to be much more difficult. In the absence of that, use the use cases that you've got so far, and also try and get some kind of what they call an LOI, letter of intent, or letter of interest rather, in this case, from universities or maybe some organization who would say, you know, once this is ready, we would love to test this, and try and have all of that. And in the meantime, as you're doing this, do some research on something called the data room, 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗶, which is what often investors want. But also, if you have that documentation there, it would be useful for when you write an application grant as well. I hope you found that helpful.
And Anton, I've just
That is really helpful.
My final point. So I was just going to say my final point that I've remembered is when it comes to doing or putting down your use of proceeds, it's a critical piece of the puzzle for investors. So, you know, from an investment point of view, you want to invest into a business, put money into it that is put to work to help grow that business as efficiently as possible. So what you want to have is kind of a sum or an investment figure that you know will get you through till another 18 months of runway, and then have a very clear plan of how that money is going to be spent, so that investors can see a clear pathway to milestones that you're going to achieve over the next probably 12 months, and then you'll have 6 months of time to raise future funding for your next round. But you know, the moment you see kind of wastage and funny bits going in different directions and no clear plan for the money that you're going to be investing, investors tend to get a bit grumpy at that point.
Okay. So I mean, you are saying the roadmap or the business plan has to be very clear and articulated so that investors understand that what are my actions and how I can, you know, how I'm making it commercialized, like after 18 months or 2 years, whatever it is, or maybe 1 year. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they'll want a plan to commercialization and then future scale. It may be that you won't be at that stage after 12 to 18 months, but typically you would raise more money after 12 to 18 months. That's just the kind of VC cycle. So it's making sure that you have a clear plan for those months, and also very clear milestones that you want to achieve with the investment funds that are coming in. So there's nothing worse from an investor point of view if you say we're going to hit this, you know, these 3 milestones with the money that you invest, and then you only hit 1 or you don't hit any. People go, well, you've not been able to deliver on what you promised to start with, so why would I give you, you know, more funding in the future? Or yeah, so that's kind of just making sure you're very clear targets, and that the investment funds that are coming in will be used to hit those targets.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and best of luck, 𝗦𝘁𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗶. Please feel free to join us
Thank you
again.
so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Nargis, please introduce yourself. Welcome back to our stage. Thank you for coming. Introduce yourself, what your business is, and what question you have for us today.
Okay, hello. Thanks a lot again to give me opportunity today to speak. I am Nargis. Actually, I am a scientist in the field of new generation photovoltaic for space. It's a perovskite, and we are starting a project, a startup from EPFL, about this new technology for space.
And EPFL, just to
Lausanne,
explain,
yes, Eco Polytechnic Federal Lausanne. It is located in Switzerland. And we are now, it's in the startup project, and we will build it like, let's say, a startup company in few months. But one question that yesterday I also discussed it a bit about what I have done. My question now is to the investor, thanks to them for being here, is that when I am building a team for fundraising, how much is important? Because now my team is mainly scientist people involved, because this is the professor who invented this technology. I am the one that, let's say, who developed this technology as a founder. Then there is a professor who invented this technology years ago. And then I have a economist, a professor as an advisory. I would like to know from the investor point of view, how much is important I have business people in my team, because actually I tried to get some attraction from other space company, but they are completely competitor. They will not even allowed to do something for, even collaboration or advisory, because they have working on another technology, and my technology is different from them, and there is a bit. I feel it's a competition or not allowed by them to be to help us in this figure. So I need to I cannot find very high expertise people which are already working in this sector in space. That's why it's my question. How much is important to investor, my team, be scientists or business people involved in the company?
Thank you very much. That is a very good question, Nargis. And again, congratulations on the invention and what you've developed so far. I'll give you my quick 2 pence and then pass it on to Guy and Fabio. Personally, I think it depends on who you're talking to. You definitely eventually want to have a very good commercial person to lead this, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to sell and make money. I know cases of similar scientific stuff where the investors have then put them through some kind of a accelerator, and they found a new chief executive and a commercial person and so on. But that would then get things more complicated. So as a rule of thumb, you would be in a much better position if you can get a commercial person, although not having one is not going to be a total deal breaker in my experience. But I would love to hear what Fabio and Guy have to say. So we'll start with Fabio this time, and then we'll go on to Guy. Fabio?
Yeah, hi Nargis. It's important that the key people have the expertise and demonstrated the expertise, and that these people are involved as much as they can in the business. I think it's down to like very few people who are very competent and very expert and skilled in the very relevant subject matter of the product you're building. I think that's more of a focus, and demonstrate how these people can actually the ones who can conceptualize the product or execute on the strategy.
Thank you, Fabio. Guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be critical to get those people with experience of building companies with a commercial knowledge within the business, I'd say sooner rather than later, but you can always bring them in on a part-time basis. I think several different reasons. One, if you are a knowledge intensive company with, lab research is going to be pretty critical to the whole thing, and therefore your focus and your scientific co-founders focus should be in the lab, focusing on that R&D and technical side of things. There'll be regulatory hurdles, there'll be feedback from as you kind of develop products and prototypes that needs to be reflected and that the scientists need to focus on. And then there's the kind of a whole area of business building that you need someone with that that expertise to go out and to trust them to go out and build the business. So I'd say if you could bring someone in sooner rather than later, but on the basis that you're an early stage company, you can bring them on a part-time basis, and therefore what you need to do is kind of create a feedback loop whereby they're going out and exploring the commercial opportunities, and you're kind of demonstrating what you can do within the lab to meet what the industry needs and industry requirements, as it were. But yeah, I think in the UK, with university research and spin-outs, you get a tech transfer office who can help you with all that kind of commercialization side of things. I don't know what it's like in Switzerland, but yeah, I would say bring in someone with that kind of commercial expertise sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much, Guy. And Nargis, I think there are a few accelerators. I think Antler who mainly operates out of Germany, but they might have some presence in Switzerland as well, and a few others. These are good places if you get accepted to go and join, because they also help you find co-founders and management teams, i.e. somebody of a senior level that would have a commercial background in your product. So I would definitely look at accelerators at this.
Thanks a lot. Could you please pronounce the name of the
Of course, it's ANTLA, A for Alpha,
Okay.
N for November, T for Tango, L for Lima, E for Echo, R for Romeo. That's
Yes.
one. There's another one called 500 Startups. I think they're German as well, if I'm not mistaken, or Dutch.
Okay.
And then there's another one called, God, what it's called? I just lost it. But you then have Techstars,
Yes.
as in Tech for Technology, and Stars. They've got 2 or 3 presences in Europe. And I just had another one in mind that I just lost it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But yes, you definitely want to go to these accelerators, because if you get accepted, a lot of them will also give you funding, Nargis, but also they will help you find co-founders or sort of that management team that you need, that commercial side. But in the meantime, once you're looking for a co-founder or these accelerators, maybe you can find a way either yourself or through the university to go into like a really robust deep dive sales training course or a partnership training course. That might be helpful as well.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome, and best of luck, and please do keep joining us. We'd love to hear on your progress. I think we might have lost Fabio, that he might have needed to go. Let me see. Yep, had to run. Guy, I'm sure you need to go too, but before we let you go, any parting words for us?
No, I thought it was some really interesting startups today. As you said, be really interesting to hear how they progress. And I've been saying this for a long time now, but it's, it is a tough funding environment. It has been for, probably 3 years now since the tech bubble burst back in 2021. So, you've got to keep at it. I'm now basically a startup as well, so I know what it's like. So it's kind of, enjoy the wins when they come. Don't despair when times feel a bit harder. And ultimately, if the most important thing you can do is show enthusiasm for your business, for what you're doing, for the problems you're trying to solve. Because if you don't believe in it and you're not excited by it, then no one else is going to be. So just keep at it and don't despair. Basically, that's not too kind of negative.
No, that's good. That's good enough. Thank you very much, Kai. I really appreciate your time and input today. It was gold stuff, so really appreciate it. Huge thanks to everyone that joined us today. Those of you that tuned in via YouTube or Facebook, those of you especially that tuned in via LinkedIn, and I guess most especially those that came up for questions. Thank you for joining us. Please keep doing so. We run 4 regular conversations per week: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of our sessions between now and the 19th of December by going to our website, StartUp-to-ScaleUp.club. Just pick one that you prefer, or 2, or however many you want to RSVP to, and then you can join us. On the other hand, please feel free to share this with your network, and feel free to follow our panelists on stage. They do provide a lot of value, and they're doing it for free for us. Otherwise, have a great weekend that is coming. Thank you all, and God bless you. Bye-bye for now, and see you on Monday for Startup Talent. Bye-bye.